Today on the Digital Investor Podcast, we are talking to Captain Fi, one of Australia's leading fire bloggers, who took a passion site in a very competitive niche from zero through to a six-figure online business. Now you're thinking, who is Captain Fi? Well, he's famous in the fire movement here in Australia. He retired at the age of 30. He achieved financial independence, retired early. He has been on this podcast before. You're going to hear a little bit about that. But what we want to help you with today, if you're listening to this, is this idea of how do you take a passion site from zero in a very competitive niche and grow it through to a significant six-figure business and to the point where you're getting corporate sponsorship. So today, I want to welcome Captain Fi onto our podcast. Captain Fi, thank you so much for agreeing to be on today.
Oh, legend. It's always fun to be here and have a chat to you, Matt. Really always appreciate your insights on everything. And I think as people will find out, there's a very good rule that I now use when it comes to my online business. The Matt is always right.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that is a rule in our community, because if you're listening to this, part of the secret we do have to say is Captain Fi is one of our most famous, also, well, infamous students, because Captain Fi, here's the incredible thing about this journey. If you're listening to this, you notice I keep referencing Captain Fi. Captain Fi has been able to build this website without anyone actually knowing his name. So he's doing it under a pseudonym all these years. And so people commonly ask us, as you know, Captain Fi, how do you, buy or build an online business when around a brand? I don't want to use my professional name. And yet you've been able to do that in a very competitive niche. And what I wanted to share is your story, the inside story of how you've been able to do that, because it is so relevant today. It's exactly what we are teaching people to do with passion sites. And mate, I do want to say a big congratulations on all your success there. So Captain Fi, out of nowhere to becoming this, literally zero to hero, mate, online. Well done. But it wasn't always like that, was it? Where did this journey start?
Oh, God. It actually started through a colleague of mine and a very, very close friend who his wife had done digital investors, and she started talking about websites. And I must admit, I probably, that whole pessimist sound smart, optimist make money thing. I was definitely in that pessimist mindset at the beginning, and me and him were both like, oh yeah, I don't think this is going to go anywhere. But she did amazing. She was doing really well with she did a digital agency model, which obviously I didn't know anything about at the time. And she was, having success with that, and her success really forced us to pay attention.
Yep.
And when we saw her success, we thought, oh my goodness, well, hang on, we got to get in on this. And so I was flying at the time. I was working as a pilot, and I thought, well, my mate and I said, well, what do I know? What's something we can value add? We created a website based on aviation. And that was like a joint venture. And that was a pretty cool site. In the end, I ended up actually buying out my partner on that. And so I just have that as a portfolio content site now. But as I was learning how to do that aviation blog, I actually just talking about this before we started recording. I literally just was like Control C, Control V, basically just copied that aviation site onto a hosting plan in my name, and I just slowly tinkered. So I sort of changed the colors from blue and teal to orange, because orange seemed like a color that was like important. Like you often see in the aircraft, danger things are striped with oranges, like the hydraulics and that kind of pinch points and stuff. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll pick orange as a color. And I think I actually it wasn't always Captain Fi. I think this was, I don't know, maybe if the orange this is a subtle nod to old Donald, but I'm pretty sure the site was called Get Fired or You're Fired or something like that.
Cool.
I started a little bit and I progressed a little bit with it. And then I sort of think, I was thinking about it, and I reckon subconsciously I was like seeing the Flight Center, the travel agency, and and you know how they use that avatar of the captain, and they have the airline captain, the airline pilot saying, "Oh, you should go to Fiji on my plane" or something. And it's trustworthy figure, right? You look at it and say, and I thought, well, in this FI movement, there's financial independence, and there's all these different FI people. And I thought, I'm an airplane captain. I'll be Captain Fi, and maybe that'll try and convey some kind of sense of trust or authority, and which is what is taught in digital investors. And so I went with Captain Fi, and just sort of, it did sort of fly under the radar, excuse another aeronautical pun, for a while. And it was just a personal blog, and it was me talking about what I'd invested in, because I was really excited about financial independence, and look, what I did wasn't groundbreaking. There is a million blogs on Fi and Coast Fi and Barista Fi and Lean Fi and Fat Fi, and there's many different bloggers talking about their strategies. And again, I'm not downplaying any of them because it's a fantastic resource. And so actually, when I created Captain Fi, it wasn't really for other people. It was mostly for myself. And it was almost like a diary. I was keeping track of what I did, my savings rates, and, probably being a little bit too borderline obsessive over it.
And I remember at this time, Captain Fi, where you take it all for granted now, your digital skills, because you've been hugely successful with this. Back then, and if you're listening to this, as Captain Fi is saying, who he started with, have all been on our program. They've all been on this podcast. And I remember seeing let's just say your business partners. I helped him build the original version of Captain Fi. And I was, the pilot site. Yeah. And at the same time, I was looking at your Captain Fi. And I remember saying to him, I should speak to your mate. I've got a feeling he's onto something here, and he does not even realize it because it was in such a lucrative niche. And you two did a great job on the pilot side. And that's when you and I got on a call one day in the good old days of getting on phones and things like that. And we went through, and I encouraged you to really build that out because you were already hitting some success, even though you were blogging. So if you're listening to this, what Captain Fi did was start blogging about a topic that he was passionate about. Now, why is that important in this day and age? We're in the AI age, okay? So when you started Captain Fi, remember, it wasn't AI, but these days people want what? They want real experiences. And this is why I'm excited, Captain Fi, to have you on today, because when I look back at your journey, when we caught up the other day and we're talking, Liz and I were talking with you and about your journey, we realized you're doing exactly what we are teaching right now is the number one strategy that's working perfectly. And that's what I want to track through here. So the first big lesson for all of us is passion sites can absolutely rock in this day and age of AI because it's very real. And that's one thing. Remember, I've always said that to you. One thing I've admired about you, and I think all your listeners admire about you too, you're just so brutally honest about everything, mate. Everything, absolutely everything.
Yeah.
You're the classic, you share everything, but people love that. And so obviously, if you can go back then, Captain Fi, can you remember, was that a hit back then? You just said you're mainly doing it for yourself, but can you remember what was the engagement like with your audience back then as you're blogging?
Yeah, look, it obviously started out pretty small. Every site starts with one click,
zero traffic. Yeah,
zero traffic. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and like I didn't have like social media or nothing. Like it was literally just the
Captain Fi. Yep.
I remember like being so nervous to post like these first few articles thinking like, oh, work's going to find out, I'm going to get like I'm going to get in trouble with HR and that kind of stuff. Cause I wasn't really allowed to speak about work at the time. And so it was really a slow start. Like if you look at the graph of the traffic, that exponential rise has got to start somewhere. So it really just started really, really down low. And actually the way I first, got onto the radar was I was commenting on other people's blogs. So I basically
strategy we teach in Champions. And I remember on that lesson, that webinar, when we were doing that, you said, I'm so going to do this. And
I was doing it literally during the class.
We run these online classes, and Captain Fi is typing into the chat, I'm doing it right now, Matt. And so you're a massive action taker, dude. Like that, and it worked.
Yeah, I just got the plugin, got I think it was called like a Gravatar or Avatar. And geez, actually been a while since I did. I need to get on and do some blog commenting. And I just put my little icon, so it had my name, my email address, and my landing page of captainfi.com. And I just like read blogs, and I'd go to the really powerful ones, the really high DA, like good blogs, which I was super interested in because they post really cool stuff. And I was just commenting on it, and I think like people would see that over time they saw the logo, they saw the name, and slowly I started getting onto these directories of other like financial bloggers, like fire bloggers, which was really cool. The other thing,
and jumping in there, Captain Fi, and for anyone listening to this and anyone that's an existing student in our community, you will see Captain Fi is doing it. Also, the next big thing that we teach, the real secret to making money online, is good old-fashioned networking.
Yeah, networking. That's right. And so that was literally the blog commenting is networking.
That got you known. Not only was there SEO value there, but it got you, more importantly, got you known in the fire movement. So you got known by some of the big names, like you said. So really, you were this guy, and let's put it in perspective, you got to pat yourself on the back here. You were this guy who was desperate to remain anonymous because of your previous career. And I think we should let people know, to put it in perspective. I want to share, because also it was an awesome career that you did, but you're in the military, transitioning as a pilot out of the military. You couldn't let people know. And so understand, and we know there's a lot of people that listen to this are in similar roles. We have a lot of military people, as you know, Captain Fi. There's a lot of pilots listening to this podcast, and online. But also, there's a lot of people that have professional roles that they don't want to let it be known publicly. So you were fighting that. There's a lot of mindset there. I remember on coaching calls with you, and I had to be respectful of your journey there. You had to remain anonymous, which you would think could make it more difficult. But I think you've absolutely blitzed it, because so when you commented to those people, obviously you're always just known as Captain Fi.
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty stressful, Matt. Purely because I guess like from a security perspective, and two, like from just because the nature of what I was posting, the net wealth, the investments, is just my personal financial security. Like I didn't really want everyone to know that. And so by being anonymous, I feel like it really actually, it freed me up to be brutally honest, because like I was, sorry, I guess I'll backtrack a bit. Sorry.
Mate, that's awesome. That is absolute gold, though. And I think, again, it's something I've always admired about you. And if you're listening to this, I think it's so important in this day and age of AI, what Captain Fi said, you were just brutally honest about what you're doing. And as a result, real people love that. You got to build this massive following very quickly after that point. When you think about it, it kind of, from that point on, once it did start to take off, gosh, it went fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess the blog commenting led to me being interviewed on a couple of podcasts. And I was like, well, this is awesome. And then like literally developed like friendships through it, and so on, there's this obviously the facade of Captain Fi and of the website and social media and the podcast and that, the persona, and then behind it, we're starting to build these like really awesome friendships and business relationships. And and I thought, oh, well, this is great. I mean, I can do this too. So started podcasting, and in fact,
So that was my next question. I want people listening to this to know what the next big inflection point was. Go for it. Repeat that bit. What when you look back at the journey?
Yeah, it was
the next big inflection point for the growth of this. So, and especially if you're looking at starting a small site, building it into something big, we need
100%
channels these days. And you jumped on podcasting. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, don't worry, you don't. There's other channels, like you can do build an email list, other social media channels, and you're a bit like Chris and Beck. They used Instagram to become travel bloggers, and then they turned that into a website and a six-figure online business. But for you, podcasting was the thing. Like you said, you felt you could do it. And what happened then? Was it hard to do the podcast? You'd never done it before.
Oh yeah, I was terrified actually. Like, I just had this, I had the cheapest bloody, because I used to do everything like on a budget, because I was trying to save all my money and invest. And so I had this, secondhand microphone that I think someone had given me, and it was a bit dodgy, right? But I learned how to use Audacity and do some basic post processing. And then got really nervous, published out my first podcast episode, and would you believe it, pretty much no one listened to the first one, right? And it just like the first blog article, and then I realized, look, you don't need to be scared of this stuff, right? Just get it out there, and stuck with it, because again, I was personally getting a lot out of it. It wasn't initially like, I'm not podcasting to produce content for this website to grow. It was like, I'm doing podcasting to learn and to network with people that have basically done this before me. Yeah. And like, so people that had reached financial independence and like the different strategies that they've used, because I had this like unsatiable thirst for knowledge in this niche. And I was like, right, surely I can eke out an extra 0.5% efficiency, or, and it's funny looking back now, and I guess we'll talk about this later. I learned that when it comes to fire, like Pareto's principle, super important, right? Like once you've got your basics sorted, like you get 80% of your results from 20% of the effort. So it's sort of a law of diminishing returns. You can only save so much, and hence why later on I started paying more attention to the income shovel, and was able to monetize the websites. But yeah, sorry, just going back to the podcast. So by like creating the podcast and starting to get episodes out, I think it's sort of, I was able to, like, I know it kind of sounds bad, I was able to get some of the credibility of the people I was interviewing. And so like when I had like these big names coming on, like it blew me away last year. I was able to, interview some awesome people for the podcast, and, just to have them, big names like that on the show made me like, when you
give
start
them a shout out, give them a shout out, Captain Fire. Come on. Who are your favorite ones?
All right, so I'm literally going on to my podcast right now, and I shouldn't play favorites, but
because you've got to put this in perspective for someone listening to this. You remember what it was like when you feel like you're a nobody, even if you're a passionate in the niche. Say you're starting a travel blog or a whatever. It's like Chris and Beck said, they never imagined 5 years ago they'd be handed 10 grand by a sponsor. And for you back then, you wouldn't have ever imagined you would get some of the biggest names in the fire movement, for instance, on your podcast, or big corporates and big names.
Sorry.
What was some of them?
Just having a little technical issues. I should not have clicked out of the window. Sorry, bear with me for a moment. Oh, there we go. I'm back. Yeah, absolutely. So it was really cool. So the first one being like Aussie Firebug.
Cool.
So he was,
everyone knows.
Yeah,
Aussie.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
Aussie Firebug was a massive influence on me, and so and he was like one of the first guests that agreed to come on, which was awesome because he's like taking a punt on this
Yeah.
newcomer,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was awesome, and it grew from there. Like Dave Gower from
Oh,
Strong Money Australia was
strong money.
awesome. And then fast forward to closer, like talking like J.L. Collins, author of Simple Path to Wealth, and someone I like to call the granddaddy of fire. He doesn't like that name, by the way. I think he prefers. Sorry, if you're listening to this, JL, the Godfather, the Godfather of finance. Who's he actually just published a book recently, which is pretty cool. Pathfinders, worth having a read about. Dozens of people have reached
It must
financial
have been
independence.
surreal for you because you're still transitioning out of the military. So you're in,
Oh
like
yeah,
you're in
yeah,
a
yeah.
full-on extreme, let's call it corporate role,
Mm-hmm.
unusual corporate role. And then on the other hand, you're moonlighting because I do want to point out to our listeners, Captain Fire, you take this for granted, mate. Back then, you refused to show your face anywhere. Like you
Oh
were,
yeah,
you were.
yeah.
So on this podcast, and it's interesting. You said you didn't start it even for content. Where
Mm,
you had just started it to get known in the industry and interview cool people, and because you are genuinely interested. Again, that's the AI. If you're listening to this, that's the AI proof kind of content you need
mm.
on your passion sites these days. But
Well, that was
you didn't have to show your face or anything, did you? So you could just be
nah,
Captain Fi.
yeah, and that was a cool thing because I didn't need it to put food on the table.
Yep.
Then I could be, as you said, I could be fiercely independent and be brutally honest. And
Whoa,
in many ways,
that's real.
people often joke and they say like, oh, if you post a question on the internet, no one will, you get rubbish answers, whatever. But if you just make a statement and you just wait for people to correct you,
Yeah.
then you get it. And so so that's what I said. Look, I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to put out, this is my investing strategy. This is why I think these index funds are good. This kind of property is good, and this is what I'm doing, and I think it's the best solution. What is everyone else doing? And it was great. The community been super supportive of me and really helped me. And so in many ways, it was actually started to sort of crowdsource free financial advice
There you
about
go.
my retirement plans.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just sort of, it grew and grew and grew. And, the podcast started to become real fun. And like this, I'll say it never really felt like work because, and even now, like it's great. I haven't actually done any podcasting for a while. I
Yep.
think it's been like 12 months,
Yeah, and
with,
we'll talk about that in a minute
oh
because that's
man.
another big advantage of online
Yeah.
businesses. I do want to come back to that,
Yeah.
but yeah. So you are obviously you found you enjoyed it, even though
I loved it. Yeah.
you were very publicly you were not comfortable being public about things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, I guess that might have been like sort of a bit of a mindset thing as well. And maybe just a bit of paranoia. Obviously, as a military pilot, you're pretty security conscious. And, like I was, operationally deployed around the world, did Afghanistan and Iraq deployments, flying over there. And yeah, so I guess security and particularly online security was at the forefront of my mind. Again, I also didn't want people finding out about this from work. A lot of fire
Yeah,
bloggers probably feel the same way because,
yeah,
you're not wanting to sort of get passed on for like professional development, promotions, and that kind of stuff.
yep,
It stands to reason that if your boss finds out that you're planning to leave in a couple of years,
yeah.
why would they put the
Well,
professional development training into you? So there was sort of those fears that I had, which were fairly real for
I was
me.
going to
Which
say that, mate, they're very real fears,
yeah,
and you're brave. You still went out there and did this because you were so passionate. And I think
yeah,
Captain Fi, when you look back at that journey, and you know our community really well, so you've got your
yeah,
community obviously, but also when you see the success stories in our community, it does seem to be a pattern, doesn't it? These real
mm.
passion sites are the ones that actually go the best, like, and they're the easiest to keep going. I guess
Oh,
that's another
absolutely,
big
yeah.
advantage in this day and age as well. They're obviously you found it a no-brainer to work on this in the evenings when you're still, working and things like that.
Oh yeah, like I mean, at one point I was typing up content on an iPad while I was like, 35,000 feet flying over the Gulf,
Wow.
which is cool. So,
Mate, well done.
because you do get your crew rest cycles. So,
So you
multiple.
did write so everyone listening, did you always, for Captain Fire, I know for all your other websites, you outsource the content, but on Captain Fire, you actually wrote the content yourself, did you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got editors. I did hire editors, which, would do like, I would basically start an article and they would help me do like, the SEO. So doing like the alt text, embed links, interlinking, that kind of stuff. And well, yeah, actually since I since I retired from flying, and I had this awesome share portfolio that was covering my cost of living, and life was great. And then I decided to take a chance and buy the hobby farm. So basically sold off all my shares. So
Yep.
it was just nearly 2 million worth of index funds on the chopping block, which was pretty scary. Bought my hobby farm, but now I didn't have quite enough to buy, so I ended up taking a loan, and so I need the money to pay the bill. So
Yep.
I have sort of downscaled the staff now, and actually it was an incredible book I read. It's very old. It's quite short. It's just called Profit First, and I had a bit of a read of that, and I think that plus a couple of conversations with you did give me a little bit of a reality check, and I need to just do the work, and I think I fell in that trap of wanting to like do everything and expand, and at one point having like 19 websites
I was
and,
just going to
and
say, so
dozens
if
of
you're listening
staff.
to this, Captain
Yeah,
Fi, it sounds very humbling, but he's prolific. He's a
yeah,
real, probably like you listening to this, most of our community are high achievers. And
yeah.
Captain Fi did not stop at just one website. We're only talking about one of his websites.
Mm,
And yeah, you went, and my advice to you, remember back then coaching you, I was saying, mate, you're going too big. Just
yeah,
focus on, I'm telling you, Captain Fi is a 7-figure plus business. It's a really good business. But
yeah.
um, let's have a look at that now, looking at this journey. So we've seen what you did. And if you're listening to this, honestly, that is the winning strategy. It is that simple. It is one of many strategies that we teach, but find a
Mm,
passion site or passion topic that you're passionate about. You can either buy it or start it yourself, work away at it. It'll be AI proof for that reason and build a community around it. You obviously had a lot of success too as this grew. You're up to, you were telling me, like millions of views on Facebook as well. So
yeah,
you did the
yeah,
so what we teach here at eBusiness, if you're new, is not only do you have a website, but you have multiple traffic sources. Like you don't have to have a podcast, but podcasts are great. If you can, a YouTube channel, which obviously you didn't because you don't want to show your face, but you had Facebook channel. Did you have Instagram, LinkedIn?
yeah. Oh, I'm on YouTube too. In fact, I just put the podcast episodes on YouTube,
Okay,
and
so you don't show your face there.
yeah, no. So it's kind of like a cross platform. I know YouTube's not really strictly designed for podcasts,
Mm.
but I just put like a little animation on, some sound waves dancing, and then it just has it there. And then that way, it's just another sort of iron in the fire, or another sort of,
Identify, yeah. So you've got
yeah.
all
So
these. So now for you, you were just mentioning over the last year, like everyone, Captain Fire, you've had some challenges, which I know you're very open about. We'll talk about
yeah,
it in another interview, I think. But
yeah,
there is a lot of burnout there. You've had family challenges, pretty full on, but also very exciting. You and have started a new family.
yeah, yeah. It's
You're
pretty
very
cool.
excited about that. Complete
Yeah, I
life
think the
change.
rings under my eyes.
Yeah, you got rings on it. Well, let's talk about the good news, though, the
Yeah,
good side and where the website and how Captain Fire's helped you through that period. Because essentially, from where Liz and I came and visited you guys on your beautiful dream hobby farm. So,
yeah. It's
because we've
awesome.
worked
Yeah,
with Captain Fire for so many years, and he'd always told me his goals when he mentioned that he moved to, we call it God's country here in Australia. It's called Queensland, especially Sunshine Coast.
yeah,
You've got that beautiful farm or acreage there, and to see you guys so happy and relaxed Tell us about the last 12 months. Like what's this allowed you to do? You mentioned you sold your share portfolio, but with Captain Fire and the websites.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it sort of stemmed from, obviously the long-term goal was obviously wanting an acreage, and have a nice bit of land for, kiddos to run around and sort of get dirty feet. When I was a kid, we had 20 acres, and that was awesome.
Yep.
So my parents separated, and when I lived in Adelaide, we sort of backed on. We had a little house in the suburb, backed onto a couple of 100 acres of reserve, and so again, like just used to just chuff off up the hill with my best mate, and we'd build cubby houses, do whatever, and sort of when the street lights came on, that's when we'd come home. And so it was always a goal of mine to be able to be a great dad. And so I knew I wanted to be financially independent, and I knew I wanted some land. So those are sort of my long-term goals. The hobby farm, it sort of stemmed out of a conversation with my accountant in 2023. So actually, I guess to provide a bit of context, I left full-time work in 2022 for a number of reasons. Predominantly, like my mum's health was really bad, but actually my health was bad as well. I was feeling super burnt out at work, and just post COVID, and then with my mum in palliative care, my mental health wasn't great. So it was at a point where I was able to go and be my mum's carer and sort of looked after her. I mean, it's amazing. We were able to have some amazing times together. And spend a lot of good quality time with not only her, but my the rest of my family, my nieces and nephews, that kind of thing. And I met an awesome woman who now my wife, who absolutely changed my life for the better. But so after my mum had passed away, we were just renting in Adelaide. I was earning, close to 80,000 a year just in dividends from the share portfolio, but I was earning more than that from the websites. And so my wife must have thought I was mad. We were renting this 2-bedroom unit, like 1970s sort of. It was a nice place. I'm not sure. I was very grateful to have it was a nice house to live in, but it was pretty basic. And we had all this income coming in, and I was, the tax was just going crazy because, I was earning all these dividends, paying tax on them, and then reinvesting them, and then plus the business income. So my accountant's like, look, maybe you should think of by the way, this isn't financial advice, people. No. He said to me, maybe you need to think about bringing your dreams of having your farm a bit sooner, because if you buy a chunk of farmland, you just keep it under 5 acres, and it's your primary place of residence. It'll grow sort of tax-free. And with the incomes from my business, plus the deposit that I had, we were able to we sort of just made it work. In fact, we had to rent it back to the owners for the first 6 months.
Mate, you are in your early 30s though, and you've retired, and you can live wherever you want in the world. Let's put it in perspective. This is a pretty amazing time in your life, isn't it? When I know you take it for granted, Captain Fire, but think of our community who we work with here at Champions and eBusiness Institute, and most of us are 50 plus.
Yeah,
mate, you've done well. In your at 30, you retired here, so this is pretty darn exciting, and sounds like you got a really cool accountant too. By the way, like nice guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he definitely has always put our best interest at heart. And and it's funny because I used to think like paying for things like accountants and lawyers and financial advisors. I used to think and mentors. Yeah. I don't think like why would I pay for this? Why would I listen to someone when I of course know everything? And then as I learnt out through many hard lessons, I do in fact not know anything. And so having these professionals around to advise absolutely
makes all the difference.
That makes all the difference.
Because look at your life. Look at your life now. You guys have moved. You started a family, and even with the last year, this is a great time to be recording this. Really, the last year, you've kind of had to step away from the online business.
Yeah.
Share with us, how's it still going?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, look, even last year, Matt, 2020. Well, oh my God, we're in 2025 already. So 2023. Sorry, I should say 2023. After my mum passed away, I did. I was suffering from depression, and I was grieving, and I didn't really do a lot of work on the websites. I think I didn't we had a lot of content queued up that I had previously done, which was slowly coming out. I think I may have done some interviews, not a lot. But again, it was becoming some pretty big names by that stage, because quite carved out a bit of a space in the niche. But yeah, it was, and I think this is one of the reasons my accountant said, and I think when I spoke to you, you said something, boldness is its own reward, or I can't quite remember the quote, that it was basically saying, come on, mate, just do it. And so coming up here to buy this patch of land was almost like a therapy for me. And I took a bunch of time to, I guess, prioritize the relationship with my wife and I. And we, when we, as I mentioned, we couldn't move in straight away after settlement because we didn't have enough money. So we had to kind of like rent it back to the owners. And we had it was like a right to occupy sort of thing. And anyway, we decided we would do some traveling. So we went and stayed with my wife's family, traveled a bit around Asia for a few months, which was really cool. And then, we finally got in, and I must say, like, just life keeps you busy. Like, we've got like 500 trees in the orchard now. We're just finishing off, I think, about another 400 meters of internal fencing. Just built the most ridiculous chicken coop. It's just
I've seen it. It is ridiculous. It's an ultra high achievers chicken coop. It is not your average chicken coop.
Well, you've seen the price of eggs these days, Matt. Jeez, it's hopefully it paid itself off. So I guess like just got super busy, and I think the Captain Fi was really on autopilot. And like I had written, obviously I'd done the SEO map. Like you teach. And so when I sort of was getting organized and trying to work out, okay, what am I going to do? So went and did the keyword research, started using some paid tools, and basically come up with, a little Excel spreadsheet with all my keywords and the various rankings and how I weighted those, a very simple formula. My friend and I come up with it, to basically how we're going to prioritize, articles. And once we sort of had that bone, or like the bones of the site, or I guess the site map, the skeleton, I thought, brilliant. Okay, well, I need to put out reviews of these and these, talk about these ETFs, these businesses, and I basically had like a solid map of everything on, that you need to know about to do FIRE, financial independence, retire early here in Australia. And it's funny when I kind of look back, the best performing content, it's actually about me.
Wow.
So it's because I had this content, because I was thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna put up all the content and the reviews. And don't get me wrong, the reviews articles got a lot of traffic, and that grew the site. But I think it almost I became like a subject matter expert in this, and people seem to really value my, I call it the bullshit meter, when you're just like, okay, is this, at the end of the day, like, can you actually do this, or can you not? Is it worth bothering looking into this or not? And so I think that's what a lot of people come for, is they want to see, okay, what am I doing in my personal life? What are the choices that I'm making, and what can they learn from me?
It's
And that
real.
attitude. Yeah. And it's real. And that's where like the podcasts are awesome, because like you look back now, nearly 100 episodes. Sorry, just kick the desk. Nearly 100 episodes of the podcast. And, you know, they still get insane views, like almost more than the blog. So,
And mate,
I think,
that you think about it, you were doing this before, you know, this was years ago. You planned all
yeah,
that once you understood how this online space worked, which I'm very proud to say we taught you.
yeah,
But you did. You just followed what we. This is why I love having you on here, Captain Fire, and celebrating this moment. I think I don't know whether it's because of your background or whatever, and anyone listening can obviously hear it. Captain Fire is an ultra high achiever, and he just does as he's told. Like you go, that works. I'm going to go and do it, and that's why I think you're so successful with Fire as well. You retired by the age of 30, dude. Not many
yeah,
people are doing that in society, but when it comes to this website, and we should share Captain Fire as well, just the value that's in here. Like I said to you all those years ago, that whole reason I rang you. I said, mate, this is one of the most lucrative niches on the planet, the financial niche. If you can get leads in this niche, remember, I used to say, and I
yeah,
say it to
yeah,
all
yeah,
champions, I say it to all digital investors, I say it to all our community, I say it to anyone listening to this. If you can get leads in these lucrative niches like the finance niche, that's your ticket for the future. And you know, I look at some of your success. You get I'm hoping I can share this. Tell me if you need me to edit this out. But mate, you get $10,000 sponsorship deals, just like Chris and Beck do in the travel niche, and it's worth every
yeah,
cent, by the
yeah,
way, because you've got that super niche audience that are real. They follow you. It is hugely valuable to the corporates. I remember when you were about to negotiate your first deal with a big corporate, and I said to you,
yeah.
I think you're undervaluing yourself here. Make sure you ask a lot more money because it's worth it. They can't get your audience anywhere else. It is worth the 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever. And
Yeah, absolutely. I think going back, I was like looking too small, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, I just need, you know, $1,000 a month, $1,000 a month, and I'll be happy, you know, like,
yeah,
because if I invest $1,000 a month over, you know, 10 years, whatever, and I calculated I'll be able to retire X number of years earlier. And yeah, and I remember you saying like, yeah, you're undervaluing yourself here, mate. I think you better just actually take a look at, you know, cost per acquisition and work out actually what it's worth to
yep.
some of these
To the
big
advertisers.
corporates. And yeah, and I remember, I guess we were chatting, and I had done some affiliate stuff, and I previously loved affiliate marketing because it was minimally invasive to
Yeah,
the readers,
yeah,
you know, to the people that are reading the blog. And you know, my attitude was, well, you don't have to use this affiliate link, but if you do, here's a sweet deal, like you're going to get 10, 20, 30% off, or some other perk, and then I'll get paid a referral fee for that. And so I really like that model. But you know, it has its limitations, and you know, after a couple of years, definitely transitioned from that to the simplicity of, you know, things like the banner advertising, the podcast advertising, which, yes, it's a little bit more invasive for the readers, but I mean, you get ads everywhere, right? Like I don't charge a subscription
no,
to access
cool.
any of my content. So that's how people are paying basically from the eyeballs. And yeah, and I remember you coaching me through how to negotiate that first deal. And it was, I couldn't believe like I'd landed the 10K a month, um,
Yeah,
10K a month for advertising. It was just, you know, it was so clean as well, because it's just like, you
yeah.
didn't have to worry about like numbers. There was no like justification of you converted this amount, invoice
No.
this. It was literally just, that's the amount, and it was just recurring,
Mate, it's like
recurring every
renting
month.
out real estate on your website.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
When you
little,
think about
little
it,
one.
it's just renting out real estate. And that's to this day, that's what you're doing. So, you know, this is now, and these days, Captain Fire, we don't say websites are, you know, a passive or even, yeah, they do take work. And if you've come this far in the story, you've heard there's been a lot of work that's gone into Captain Fire in the early days. Once it's set up, hopefully you can see these are we won't say totally passive or anything like that or semi-passive. They still take work to tick along, but at the end of the day, you're just renting out space on your website. And
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, here we are, like, you
what,
know, I've been,
2025?
yeah, like I've been, I switched from, because I used to do monthly net worth updates, and that was like a
Yep.
pretty big part of the site that everyone loved to chime into. And I
Mm.
did monthly because, it was always good, fresh content. And it was part diary entry, part financial update. And, people loved it. It's kind of publishing, like, I guess a financial statement for my company, which is, me incorporated. And people loved it, but it was a lot of work. And I ended up, I now do quarterly, so every 3 months.
So imagine that Captain Fi. If you're listening
Yeah.
to this, you notice Captain Fi just said, because he's living the laptop lifestyle now. He goes, "Oh, it's a lot of work having to do something monthly. Oh man." But mate,
Yeah.
you have changed. You've become a Queenslander. You're more chilled out and relaxed, and
Yeah, I like going out on the boat barefoot,
yeah,
getting the mud
so
crabs. Yeah.
literally, our take on it is, Captain Fire, you do live the laptop lifestyle, even though you're settled with a family,
Yeah.
and it is very, you're just devoted to your new lifestyle. And
Yeah, absolutely.
now the other purpose, if you're listening to this, why I wanted Captain Fine here is public accountability as his mentor. I'm going to kick his butt to make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
he keep.
Yeah.
What do we reckon, listeners? We should get Captain Fire back because he is awesome at what he does with
Yeah.
the fire movement. And I do want to encourage you to keep working on that site because, like Captain Fire said to you all those years ago, mate, you're onto something there. It's the finance niche. Even for the last year on autopilot, this thing is making you six figures. It's replaced your income. And Captain Fire, thank you today for sharing so much too. To keep it in perspective, transition, as you know, we're really passionate about helping people transition from careers. It's really cool that you said very openly, look, you did have a career. You were, earning lots of money. You also had financial independence from your share portfolio. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, how do you do this? Captain Fire had those assets behind him, which allowed him to create a very real website portfolio. There were other websites as well that you bought and sold, and I just think it's been fantastic today to hear you as always, your brutally honest and open
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And mate, I want to say a big thank you for coming on and sharing the true story behind Captain Fire and your
Yeah.
success
Thanks, man.
online.
Oh, mate, yeah, it's kind of cool to think back about it. Like, certainly scratching my head to remember some of it because, yeah,
Yeah.
geez, it was a while ago.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess they say, like, overnight successes take years in the making.
takes years. But
Um,
seriously, big congratulations because you put in. I want to remind you of all the hard work that you did put in those early
yeah,
days. You know, late nights, or should I say, late flights, 30,000
yeah,
feet
yeah,
up, writing
yeah,
away articles and stuff. But that's what it takes. But it paid off, and I think what you've done is super relevant in today's AI-driven world, particularly with the way AI search engines are working. As you can hopefully see, passion sites, legitimate passion sites, it's just one strategy that's out there, but they still work phenomenally well and can make you significant money. They're a no-brainer to do because if you're passionate about it, you're probably going to turn up every day, even if you're working full-time, and build it as a side hustle. And who knows, you will, if you get the success that Captain Fire has, you're going to be very happy down the tracks. And if you're looking to get started like Captain Fire did all those years ago, go and do our free masterclass. This is where Captain Fire started. It shows you how you can buy and build online businesses, exactly like what we've just discussed in this podcast. It's where Captain Fire starts, where everyone starts in our community. So if you're brand new to this, I'd highly encourage you to get out there and do that. But thanks again, Captain Fire, for coming along today.
cheers, Matt.